Okay, people. So, Hulu have got a new original film just about to drop from Alexis Jacknow. She wrote and directed the joint, and it's her feature debut. Okay. The film is produced by Lil Name, co-produced by Alex Hansen, executive produced by David Brooks, Jenna Cavell, and R.B. Pedrosian. Um, it is associate produced by Paul Merriman and Miles Alva. Okay, Stephen Luckock was on music. Martin Vian, cinematography. Alexandra Amick edits the joint. Brittany Ward was on casting. Christian Gibler, production design. Set decoration was Dakota Millett and Ashley Adams. Costume design, we've got Ejune Fernandez and Olivia Maury. Hair and makeup, Shannon Marie Trigger, Lola Perez, Celisa Martinez, Amber Livingston, Olivia Frierson, Andrea De Leon, Ramona Colazio, and Jennifer Brinier. We have got our cast, right? So, Ella Patel is played by Dianna Agron. Her husband, Aidan Patel, is played by Jaya Lee. We then have got her dad, Joseph, played by Saul Rubinek. Got Dr. Elizabeth Simmons, played by Mallory Hardin, who I was watching. I'm thinking, how do I know this woman? How do I know this woman? And it's Jan from The Office, obviously, right? Yeah. Anyway, Ella's best friend Shauna is played by Grace Porter. We got other friends, Cara, played by Kat Steffens. There is who else? Dr. Weber, played by Nikita Patel. Harvey, played by Stefan Sims. Ella's mother in flashbacks is played by Jane Schwartz. We have got some of the patients at the hospital, right? One's played by Isabel Du, another's Margaru Susi, Markel Skinner. Yeah, and Jacknow is also one. That's probably the main cast. Now, the gist of the film is this: Ella joins a clinical trial to try and kickstart her seemingly broken biological clock amidst growing pressure to have children from the world around her. So, yeah, this film, right? I wasn't quite sure what it was about, to be honest with you. Yeah, before I started, obviously, when I was watching it, I was like, okay. But before, so you know what I mean? The opening scene is this woman, it's night, right? She's on swings. And at first you're like, what's happening? And as the camera gets closer, you're like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't good at all. Right. And at the end of this kind of sequence, this thing drops on the floor and it's in this yeah, and you're like, what the fuck is I'm trying to look, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Right. The next thing we know, we're seeing like eggs with caviar, and it's like a baby shower. Right, Shauna's baby shower, and all the friends are talking about pregnancy, and you see Ella standing there, and you can see that, I mean, she's not comfortable, right? Not comfortable at all with anything that is happening. And there's like, oh man, there's a creepy ass scene where it's just like, she was like, oh, and you're like, what's wrong? And he's like, oh, it's a baby kicking. Do you want to feel? And like, yeah, just to look at it, just that was kind of a little creepy, but you can just see how Ella is uncomfortable with everything, right? And you know, when she goes for, you know, they go for a meal at her dad's house, and he's obviously like, oh, I want grandchildren, and there's just all of this stuff happening, right? Now, the conversation with you know what I mean, hubby and all of that, right? So Aidan seems that he's fine regardless, right? But he said, you know, I think Ella's got like, her mum died of cancer, so she's gone for a checkup, and the doctor's like, yo, you should check this woman out, right? Now, I will say the doctor, the bedside manner of this OBGYN, I thought it's a little on the cold side, right? Little on the cold side. But you know, she gets this recommendation and she goes for this clinical trial. Now, there's something that happens before she goes on this trial, which I wasn't quite sure why that had to go the way it went, right? Because you just think, okay, if this trial is this many days, couldn't you do both? Right? But you know, she's in this trial, and I mean, it all seems like it's one of those things that all seem fine, but there's this air of apprehension about it all, right? And I think everything is played really well by the cast here. We got a stellar cast, man. Everyone's doing really, really good performances, right? You've got, you know, I mean, Dr. Simmons, um, Melora, who is, yeah, I mean, just giving off this air of confidence and, oh no, listen to me. Oh, everything is going to be absolutely fine, right? Which is papering over any concerns Ella may have. And you can, you know, anything Ella says, she's got an answer to it, right? Which seems all very okay. All right. I would say there's a bit with, always read the terms and conditions. I mean, always read the fucking terms and conditions, right? Because there's some messy, messy fucking stuff. Man, but we have just the way everything is captured, because, you know, as I said, right, this is Jacknow's feature debut. It's her feature debut, people. And the way she is telling this story, right, it's a pretty frigging great job, right? Now, she's worked in TV, so, you know, she has got yeah, she, you know, she, I think she's got directorial chops, right? She's done as I said, TV, shorts, all of that kind of jam. So I think she can tell a story, but telling a story on this sort of scale, right? I think that's the big thing. It is definitely very impressive. And especially when we get into these sequences of kind of feverish dreams, hallucinations, right? The twisted reality. I think that's all handled very, very well. Like there's a moment in the film where you think, oh, could this have happened? And then it kind of the way it moves, you're like, okay, that didn't happen. But it's just the way it works, because then there's this other thing that we learn, and you're like, oh shit, right? Which really makes that scene pop even more. So I mean, I just think, look, the camera work was great. The way, everyone plays their part, because there's some very dubious behavior, people, and it's the facial expression, right? The way everyone is acting, you believe that certain people are caring. You believe some people have got Ella's back. And then when these other things happen, right, you're looking at it all and you're just like, yo, fuck, right? And there's this expression she has on her face at the end that you're just like, oh my God. Just that look, that emptiness, that fucking emptiness. It is done very well. Like the end is so fucking creepy, but it's such an innocuous scene, right? But just that, and like the ramifications of everything that has just happened, it just makes this fucking scene, which if you'd seen it any other time, you'd be like, okay, but it just makes it just whew, 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 whew. The use of color in this film, right? And the absence of, really, you don't realize. I mean, you're watching it and you can see the effect, but it really jumps out at you after this pivotal moment. And you're like, oh my God. Right. And it makes, and you don't realize how influential like the color palette is on all the things that we're seeing, you know? It's a really good film. It's a really good film. I enjoyed it, man. Um, I think there's films like The Sun, right? They Live in the Gray. Now, not similar topics, but I feel it's the way that, hallucinations and just all of that kind of come into play, right? That psychological element of those stories. I feel that if you enjoy those, then Clock is going to really work for you. It's going to really work for you because, boy, oh boy, yeah, it's, you know what I mean? I say it's not for the faint-hearted. I mean, if you want an easy watch, right? Clock isn't it, because there's so many elements about this story. So many elements, right? Because you do have, when you're looking at it at that base level, it's that, that notion of, oh, surely you want a baby. Everyone wants a baby. Right? It's those world pressures, like of feeling broken, of feeling inadequate, right? Like, oh, Why am I weird for not wanting this thing? You know what I mean? So there's that. But then there's all these other things, right? There's all these other things that come into play as well. So, you know, definitely a well put together piece here, people. Well put together piece. So, yeah, if you like your psychological thrillers, then you've definitely got one on your hand with Clock, which will be hitting Hulu in the States and Disney Plus internationally. So there is no excuse, people. Go get you some.